عليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. طيب, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. In continuing our study of Kitab al-Kabair, the book of major sins, wasalna ila al-bab, we reached the chapter of qadhf al-muhsinat or muhsanat, qadhf al-muhsanat, slandering of the chaste believing women. I mentioned قول الله تعالى إن الذين يرمون المحصنات الغافلات المؤمنات الآية. The rest of the ayah is in Surah An-Nur, ayah 23. Allah mentions إن الذين يرمون المحصنات الغافلات المؤمنات لعنوا في الدنيا والآخرة ولهم عذاب عظيم. Those who slander and any chaste, indiscreet, unbelieving women are cursed in this life and the hereafter. For them is a grievous penalty.
I think it's a mistake. I think it should be discreet.
Discreet.
Yes, chaste, discreet.
Al-Ghafilat.
I have been discreet.
But it should be discreet.
It should be discreet.
طيب. In Arabic, al-ghafilat, what is intended by this? Al-ba'idat, those who are far from this. Al-ba'idat an hadil umur. So the intended meaning by al-ghafilat, meaning those who are ba'idat, meaning far from these practices. So those who slander chaste women who are far from these practices, who are from the believers, those who accuse them, they are cursed. They are cursed in this life and in the hereafter. And this is from the signs also that this is from the major sins. Also, the hadith وَلَهُمَا عن أبي هريرة مرفوعا اجتنبوا السبع الموبقات قالوا وما هن يا رسول الله. It mentions stay away from 7 great destructive sins. And they mentioned what are they, O Messenger of Allah? He says الشرك بالله. قال الشرك بالله. The worst of them is الشرك. Then he mentioned والسحر, and magic. And then وقتل النفس, and then murdering, taking life. التي حرم الله, that which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prohibited. إلا بالحق, except with a due right. وهذا يرجع إلى المحكمة. This goes back to the judicial system. وأكل الربا, and riba, usury. وأكل مال اليتيم, and also consuming the orphan's wealth unjustly. وتولي يوم الزحف, fleeing from the battlefield. وقذف المحسنات الغافلات المؤمنات, and accusing of adultery chaste women who never think of anything, who are ba'idat. Ghafilat, it means someone who's negligent. This is not something that crosses their mind. They're very far from this practice, and they are good believing women. So to accuse the likes of these women of adultery, and this is of the major destructive sins, from the major destructive sins. Allah also mentioned regarding these people, يوم تشهد عليهم ألسنتهم وأيديهم وأرجلهم بما كانوا يعملون يومئذ يوفيهم الله دينهم الحق ويعلمون أن الله هو الحق المبين. On that day, their tongues, their hands, their feet will bear witness against them for that which they used to do. At that time, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give them their due recompense in truth and in full, and they will know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who is the clear truth. So of the things that we learn, the Sharia, it preserves life, wal mal, and property, wal ard, or wal ird, and honor. So these are of those things as well that affect a person's honor, and at times it may affect a person's life. For example, if person falsely accused a believing woman of zina and she was married, for example, and people falsely claimed to witness this also, and it wasn't determined that they were lying, they may cause her to be given the had, the punishment of being put to death. In this situation now, those people have not only transgressed in someone's honor, but also having a life taken unjustly. So, of the things that is preserved by Islam is honor, wealth, and life. ولهذا قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم إن دماءكم وأموالكم وأعراضكم عليكم حرام كحرمة يومكم هذا في بلدكم هذا في شهركم هذا. Again, this is the usage of hada that we learned today, this morning, that comes as an adjective, a nat. So it mentions, indeed your blood and your lives and your property, your wealth and your honor upon you is sacred, ay haram, just like the sanctity of this day, Yawm al-Arafah, in this sacred place, ay Balad al-Haram, in this the sacred parts of Mecca. في شهركم هذا, هذا من أشهر الحرم, from the sacred months. So again, this was the analogy that Prophet Muhammad gave his companions of how sacred a person's wealth is, a person's life is, and a person's honor. And of the thing that's mentioned, Islam has made the honor from the 5 necessities of what is to be preserved or safeguarded. From them, hifdh al-deen, the religion is to be safeguarded. Hifdh al-aql, a person's mind, intellect is to be preserved. That's why we have the prohibition of intoxicants and the likes. Wa hifdh al-nafs, life is to be preserved. Wa hifdh al-mal, and wealth is to be preserved and protected. Wa hifdh al-ird, and also a person's honor. These are the 5 main things that Islam governs the protection of. The religion, a person's mental mind, faculties, life, property, and honor. And also of the thing that's obligatory, when a person knows someone does wrong, you should conceal their wrongdoings. You should conceal their sins. Hide their sins. كما قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم من ستر مسلما ستره الله يوم القيامة. Whoever safeguards the sins of another Muslim, Allah will safeguard them on the day of judgment. One shouldn't expose another person's sins. If a person knows someone's doing something and that's sins between them and Allah, they're not publicizing their sin, you should not make it public. You should also conceal that person's sin. Times when you can make a person's sins known, if the sins cause harm to others. If the sins cause harm to another person. Also, if their sins are public, they've already done that job for themselves. They've already exposed their own self when they publicize their sins. Also, when a person is seeking a reference for business or marriage, a person is seeking character reference for these matters, a person is obliged to speak the truth in that which they know. Other than these matters, what's obligatory upon a person to have the ability to do so is to give advice. In deen and nasiha, to give advice, sincere advice, and avoid spreading that person's wrongdoings. And so Allah mentions, الَّذِينَ يُحِبُّونَ أَن تَشِيعَ الْفَاحِشَةُ فِي الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا لَهُمْ عَذَابٌ أَلِيمٌ. For those who love to spread immorality among the believers, for them is a tormenting punishment. For them is a tormenting punishment. No one's perfect, no one's expected to be perfect. People will sin. When a person falls into sin, they try their best to safeguard their wrongdoings between them and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It becomes a great transgression for someone else to publicize their sins. For someone else to publicize their sin. Especially if you haven't advised that person. Sometimes it occurs with people, students of knowledge, a person may fall into a mistake. Rather than call that person or write to that person, look, you made a mistake here and there, they make a video about the person. Or they start to speak about the person to other individuals, saying this person's misguided, X, Y, and Z. But even still, everyone will take a stance, but no one has contacted that person and given advice to say, look, this is where you made a mistake, this is the evidence for your mistake. Give them opportunity to rectify, retract their mistake, make tawbah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If it's public, publicize their retraction. But unfortunately, we find they jump the gun, as they say. And sometimes, what people have to understand as well, sometimes people will spread sins about a person min bab yani ifsad, as a means to cause corruption, as a means to defame a person's character. These things are, Allah musta'an, shows the evil of a person's character. A person for no reason wants to ruin a person's character, so they'll speak bad about them in their community and the likes, backbiting, slandering, with no actual objective other than to ruin a person's character. This is very problematic. Very problematic. And when a person does this, sometimes they do what is called tatabbu' awrat. Tatabbu' awrat in nas is when they try, it's like they become like a spy, where they're looking for an opportunity to catch something on a person and say, look, yeah, look what they've done. I finally found something, and then they start to spread it. Again, this is from evil characteristics that also destroy communities. You find this happens in politics as well. When someone is in a position of power, authority, leadership, people try to shut them down by seeking to find ways to defame that person's character, only to have them removed from a particular position. Again, this causes harm, more harm than it brings about goodness, unless that person's evil, their wrongdoings, are transgression that affects other people. And the best thing a person should do is hope that they can make dua for the Muslim, may Allah guide them, make them firm and forgive them their shortcomings, then share it to someone else. As that's what we would love for someone to do for us, because we're all going to make mistakes, we're all going to fall into sin, may say something we regret, do something we regret. We would hope that someone can come to us in sin and say, look, just make tawbah to Allah, you did this, it wasn't correct, and then move on. That's how we should also deal with other people, that we always want good for each other, that we want people to be upon goodness, that we're not happy when a person falls into shortcomings. Some people celebrate people's shortcomings. Wallahu musta'an. So, as we mentioned, these 7 destructive sins, the first one is a shirk billah, because there's no sin greater than that which is regarding the rights of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Associating partners with other than Allah Azza wa Jal is the one sin Allah has also promised that He will never forgive. Also, Allah mentions in the Quran, إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَغْفِرُ أَن يُشْرَكَ بِهِ وَيَغْفِرُ مَا دُونَ ذَلِكَ لِمَن يَشَاءُ. Allah does not forgive a person dies upon shirk, but He forgives other than that for whomsoever He wills. That also shows the vast mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah's mercy is vast. It also shows the gravity of shirk. Also Allah mentions إِنَّهُ مَن يُشْرِكْ بِاللَّهِ فَقَدْ حَرَّمَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ الْجَنَّةِ وَمَأْوَاهُ النَّارِ وَمَا لِلظَّالِمِينَ مِنْ أَنصَارٍ. Whoever falls into shirk, Allah has prohibited that person from Al-Jannah. And their dwelling place will be the hellfire. The dwelling place will be the hellfire. And there is no aiders, no people that can help the people of transgression. So Allah mentions those who al-mushrikun, they are al-zalimun. Those who fall into shirk, they are the people of al-dhulm. Also, the second of them is a sihr. A sihr, which is magic, as known. As for the ruling of the sahir, the magician, then that person is a kafir. That person is a kafir. And that's why the ruling of ta'lim al-sihr or ta'allum al-sihr kufrun. Learning and teaching magic is also from disbelief. It's disbelief, it's kufr. Also, that's why the Yahud, the Jews, they accused Sulaiman alayhi salam of magic, because he had control of the jinn. And that's why Allah mentions وَمَا كَفَرَ سُلَيْمَانَ وَلَكِنَّ الشَّيَاطِينَ كَفَرُوا. Sulaiman didn't disbelieve, however it's the shayateen that disbelieved. يُعَلِّمُونَ النَّاسَ السِّحْرَ, teaching the people magic. As for Sulaiman alayhi salam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made the jinn subservient to him. Allah is one who made the jinn subservient to the command of Sulaiman, to serve Sulaiman alayhi salam.
What about being obsessed with like magic shows or like Harry Potter and stuff like that?
As for watching magic shows, again, this is something that should be also avoided. It should also be avoided. Because what happens, a person becomes desensitized. A person becomes desensitized to the hurma, the prohibition of as-sihr. Also, was mentioned, the third is قتل النفس التي حرم الله إلا بالحق, يعني taking a life that Allah has prohibited. For this person, again, Allah mentions وَمَنْ يَقْتُلْ مُؤْمِنًا مُتَعَمِّدًا فَجَزَاؤُهُ جَهَنَّمُ خَالِدًا فِيهَا وَغَضِبَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَلَعَنَهُ وَأَعَدَّ لَهُ عَذَابًا عَظِيمًا. Allah mentions the one who takes a life intentionally, a believer's life intentionally, then their reward is Jahannam, and they will remain there forever. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is angry with them and will curse them, and is prepared for them a tormenting punishment. Also, the disbeliever that has a treaties with the Muslims is also haram to take their life. It mentioned in the hadith of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam من قتل معاهدا لم يرح رائحة الجنة وإن ريحها توجد من مسيرة 40 عاما. He mentioned whoever takes the life of a disbeliever who has a treaties with the Muslims, they will not smell the smell of Jannah. And I mentioned the smell of Jannah can be found equivalent to the distance of 40 years. That's how far the smell of Jannah will reach, the equivalent of traveling for 40 years. Showing that that person will not come anywhere near to Jannah. Showing the severity of the action, that person will not come anywhere near to Al-Jannah. That's what I mentioned. Also, akl riba, those who consume riba, usury. Other things mentioned, al-iqtisad al-yawm mabniyan ala riba. The world economy in this day and age is built upon riba. فلا يسلم أو لا ينجو منها أو منه إلا من يسلمه الله. No one is safe from this except for those Allah has saved from this. But a person is to, if they when they are aware of it, they stay far away from it.
You know when we buy like a fridge, freezer and cookers and we have insurance, is that haram?
Insurance, you're not supposed to have insurance. Wallahu alam.
On the equipment?
Yeah, from what I understand, and Allah knows best. Because we only have car insurance by way of necessity. Now, because it's almost similar to gambling. It's like if it breaks, if something happens to happen to it, and I've paid for the service of based upon chance. Allah knows best. Also, of the things that's mentioned is taking the wealth of orphans. Now, if a person has been entrusted with taking care of orphans, it's haram to consume their wealth. Rather, a person is to safeguard their wealth. When they get to an age, they give them their wealth, they're able to take care of themselves. Whilst they're young, they have those entrusted to take care of them. But if the person who's taking care of them is poor, for example, then they're allowed to take from their wealth that which is not going to cause harm to the orphan. In a way that is seen as something that is good. But as for consuming the wealth of the orphan unjustly, then this is not permissible. And you have some people, they foster kids not for the intention of looking after the child, because it pays a lot of money. This is evil intentions. They don't, and sometimes they mistreat the children that they foster and the likes. Rather, al-yatama, the Prophet said, the one who looks after an orphan will be like this with him yawm al-qiyamah, and he's very close to him. So a person not to take this for granted. Also, of the major sins is fleeing from the battlefield at the time of battle. As we know, when some of the Sahaba fled from the battlefield, the Prophet Muhammad boycotted them for over 40 nights by the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it's a major sin. Then you have, lastly, the shahid from the hadith. The main point of reference is the accusation of the chaste believing women with zina. And that's because the believer is not to be accused of zina. The foundation of the believer is that they're free from these actions. Now, and one should not make these accusations lightly. One should be cautious and not make these accusations lightly. Rather, a person is obliged to safeguard their tongue, from saying anything that may cause great consequence or bring about regret for causing harm in a person's honor unjustly. The next point that we have is two-faced people. Dhul wajhain. Bab ma ja'a fi dhil wajhain, the one who has two faces. The people that's two-faced. And Sayyidina from Allah mentions, وَإِذَا لَقُوا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا قَالُوا آمَنَّا وَإِذَا خَلَوْا إِلَى شَيَاطِينِهِمْ قَالُوا إِنَّا مَعَكُمْ. When they are with the believers, they say that we believe, but when they go back to their shayateen, they say we are with you. Allah mentions مُذَبَذَبِينَ بَيْنَ ذَلِكَ لَا إِلَى هَؤُلَاءِ وَلَا إِلَى هَؤُلَاءِ. They are the ones who swaying between this and that, belonging neither to these or to those. I.e., they say what pleases that person when those people when they're with them, and when they're with the others, they'll say that which is pleasing to the others. These are from the worst characteristics to have. To be like a snake, as they say. When you come around people, you say what appeases them, you get close to them, but reality, you go to the enemies as well and you carry news about that person. You say, no, I'm just there to, serve you and the likes. Then you go back to the other people, say, yeah, you know what these people are saying about you. And you spread evil among the two sides. May Allah destroy that car engine. Everyone's my witness. I've made dua against this car. And keep the driver safe, but destroy this car. I mean, he knows what he's doing. This person's been warned. So, again, of the things that is mentioned, when it comes to the Quran, the people are of three types. الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا بِهِ ظَاهِرًا وَبَاطِنًا. They are those who believed in it apparently and internally. There's no hypocrisy in them at all. The second type of people are those who are the kuffar. They disbelieve in it openly and internally. Secretly, publicly, regardless, they disbelieve in the Quran. They are the disbelievers. Then the third type is the munafiq, the hypocrites. They believe in it openly, publicly, but secretly and internally they disbelieve. And being dhul wajhain, two-faced, is from the sifat, the characteristics of the hypocrites. Being two-faced is from the characteristics of the hypocrites. Also, what's a great threat regarding being of these people, ما قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه تجدون شر الناس يوم القيامة عند الله ذا الوجهين الذي يأتي هؤلاء بوجه وهؤلاء بوجه. هذا في البخاري ومسلم. The worst people you will find on the day of judgment with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are those who are two-faced. They come to these people with one face and they go to the others with another face. They come to these people with one face, and they come to the other people with another face, to be two-faced. These are the worst people in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the Day of Judgment. And from the ways of these people, when they're with certain people, they will make it clear that they love them, they want good for them, and the likes. But when they're with another party, they'll say as if they hate those other people, they don't want good for those people, and the likes. Also, of the thing that's mentioned, and Anas رضي الله عنه مرفوعا من كان ذا لسانين جعل الله له يوم القيامة لسانين من نار. The one who has two tongues, i.e. is two-faced, Allah will give them two tongues on the Day of Judgment from fire.
Can you repeat that, please?
The one, من كان ذا لسانين, the one who has two tongues, جعل الله له يوم القيامة لسانين. The one who has two tongues, Allah will make for that person two tongues on the Day of Judgment, min nar. لسانين min nar. Two tongues from fire. So again, that shows the severity of being a person who is what? Two-faced. For a person to be two-faced. This is of those evil characteristics that a person can have. When they're with certain people, they show that they love them, they want good for them, but when they're with others, they reflect the opposite of that. Rather, the Muslims should be truthful with whoever they're with. They should be one. They should never change. They should be the same. And as we know, رضا الناس غاية لا تدرك. Trying to please everyone is an objective that cannot be attained. Trying to please everyone is an objective that one can never attain. The next matter that is discussed is Bab ma ja'a fi namima. In English they say kalamna or something like this. I've never heard this word before. But as we know, namima is tale carrying. Namima is tale carrying. Allah mentions قول الله تعالى هماز مشاء بنميم, the slander who goes around carrying tales. Also عن حذيفة مرفوعا, the Prophet had mentioned لا يدخل الجنة نمام, the tale carrier will not enter Al-Jannah. The tale carrier will not enter Al-Jannah. That also shows the severity of this action. Now, An-Namima نقل الحديث بين الناس على وجه الوشاية. It's that a person goes around people carrying tales as a means to cause defamation of character, to speak ill of a person. This is what is meant by an-namima. As for al-ghiba, backbiting, huwa dhikru akhik bima yakra. As for backbiting, is to speak about a person behind their back with that which they would not like. But as for namima, is to carry tales about people as a means of causing defamation of character and the likes. Again, this is from the major sins. Also, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, when he passed by a grave, he mentions, إِنَّهُمَا لَيُعَذَّبَانِ وَمَا يُعَذَّبَانِ فِي كَبِيرٍ بَلَا إِنَّهُ كَبِيرٌ أَمَّا أَحَدُهُمَا فَكَانَ لَا يَسْتَبْرِئُ مِنَ الْبَوْلِ وَأَمَّا الْآخَرُ فَكَانَ يَمْشِي بِالنَّمِيمَةِ الْحَدِيث. He passed by two graves and he said they are being punished, and they're not being punished for something big. Rather, it is big, it is major. When it's big, it means it's not something that is difficult to fall into. He says it's not big, it's not something difficult to fall into. But they are major in terms of their sin. The first of them, one, did not protect themselves from urine when they relieved themselves. Did not safeguard themselves from the impurities of urine. Second person, they used to walk around tail carrying with namima. The fact that they are punished is evidence of this reality being a major sin. The fact there is a punishment mentioned, a prescribed punishment, is evident, and this is from the major sins. And the punishment may be in this life and it may be in the hereafter. But in a land with a Muslim judicial system, if a person was known to carry tales about a person may take them to their court and they may be lashed for backbiting and slandering and the likes.
What about news? If you listen to the news and then you...
When it comes to listening to the news, you have to make affirmation if you're going to carry news. If you're going to carry news, and كما قال الله تعالى إذا جاءكم فاسق بنبأ فتبينوا. If a fasiq comes to you with news, then make clarity. As Muslims, we shouldn't be listening to these news stations that are not Muslim and taking their narrative. Especially in what we're going through today with Palestine. As you can see, because it's the Palestinians defending themselves and finally trying to have a voice, the news headlines make it seem like they're the worst of people, they're animals, they're terrorists, and the likes. But whenever they've experienced all the trauma and suffering and oppression for the last how many years, nothing was ever said. When we witness every Ramadan, when the Masjid Al-Aqsa is attacked while they're praying, the news doesn't say anything. They stay silent. But the thing upon us also as Muslims, on social media, sometimes we follow certain personalities. Even me, I like basketball. I used to follow the NBA. I find they put up, we support Israel, unfollow. Straight away, I don't have nothing to do with them. I won't watch basketball anymore. Because that's what you support. You see, it's a sport. But then when you see what they stand for, Allah Al-Mubtasim. But again, what they fail to realize, on the day of judgment, the truth will become manifest. And the oppressors will be separated from those who are oppressed. And those who are oppressed will be given what they deserve. It's only a matter of time. But in situations like this, anything being broadcasted from these mainstream news stations regarding that situation, I will never share it. It's taken with a pinch of salt. No. In another hadith, it mentions لمسلم عن ابن مسعود عبد الله بن مسعود رضي الله عنه مرفوعا ألا هل أنبئكم ما العضه هي النميمة القالة بين الناس. The Prophet Muhammad said in this hadith, shall not inform you of al-adhu. Al-adhu, it mentions as-sihr, is magic. In English it shall not inform you of what is slandering. But in the what is mentioned by al-adhu, huwa as-sihru. And the evidence is they say الذين جعلوا القرآن عضين. عضين بمعنى قالوا إنه سحر. Allah mentions about those who made the Quran عضين. They made the Quran to be, they consider to be magic. So العدhu هو السحر. The Prophet said, I not inform you about العدhu السحر. He mentions النميمة القالة بين الناس. It's the tale carrying between the people. Because it's like magic. What happens? That tale carrying, it causes people to hate people, to consider people a certain way. Without proof, without evidence, but based on what has been said. The people are turned against the people based upon tale carrying. So it has similar impacts upon people as does sihr, magic. So Allah Musta'an, the fact that it's also compared to such an evil sin and destructive sin also shows us the gravity of this sin. So we'll stop there today, inshallah. We'll stop there today, inshallah. So that car's gonna get what it deserves, trust me. Allah musta'an. No, it's a car. It's a brother from the masjid. We just parked him, banned him from the car park because he keeps doing the same thing.
You've got a similar, I don't know whether he lives on Mar Road, because I'll tell you, 11:12, you made this early afternoon. So
They have to fear Allah. They cause harm to the people. You see, all it takes one person to make dua against them, that's it. The dua is answered, because the dua of the oppressed is answered. You see, and they have to fear Allah. Because what he doesn't realize, he's doing this while there's lessons going on. وَمَنْ أَظْلَمُ مِمَّنْ مَنْعَ مَسَاجِدَ اللَّهِ أَنْ يُذْكَرَ فِيهَا اسْمُهُ. Who is more oppressive than those who prevent the masajid of Allah, the house of Allah, having Allah's name mentioned. That they cause distraction to the people that are studying in the circles of knowledge. So we ask God to give them what they deserve. Ask God to give them what they deserve. And I ask God to destroy that car, never give them a car that has an engine like that again. Ameen. So we finish with this. بإذن الله تعالى. جزاكم الله صلى الله عليه وسلم على نبينا وحبيبنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.